Mobility challenges don't have to hinder your sense of adventure. If you recently experienced an SCI, you may not have active living, sports, and recreation on the mind, but the reality is exercise and recreation may be even more beneficial to you now than they were before your injury. On this episode of Underestimated, presented by Oatley Vigmond Personal Injury Lawyers and brought to you by Spinal Cord Injury Ontario, we're discussing accessible recreation. ODA introduces us to Able Sail Toronto, an inspiring organization dedicated to making sailing accessible for people with disabilities through all sorts of innovative adaptations. Former Paralympian Dean Dwyer shares his view on recreation and how it's helped him find joy in his life. And we head to Rise Above Adaptive Climbing, where Miranda Scott is dedicated to making the sport of rock climbing inclusive and accessible to everyone.
I've had a spinal cord injury for over 2 decades, and not many people know I've been sailing for over 10 years on and off. Today I'd like to introduce you to one of my favorite pastimes. I'm here at the National Yacht Club at 1 Stadium Road at Able Sail Toronto.
Able Sail Toronto started in 2019. There was a group of sailors that people with disability that felt that they wanted to start a club that was run by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. And so they came up with a concept, but didn't get the traction to get it started until they talked to me, and then we started working together. And I had been doing some work previously with other clubs, helping them out and getting them going. So I knew what it would take, and also the connections for what companies to use. Plus, I've been doing work with the Able Sail Network of Canada with the objective of creating a templated system that could be reproduced so that more clubs could open up across the country. This particular club is the first club that was used to test out that template. If you build it, they will come.
Right.
If you design it, you have to prove that it can actually work, and this was the proof of that particular design. I got involved with a couple of sailors that wanted to race, that wanted to become better sailors, and they wanted a personal coach. So I was coaching them. Then I started looking at the boats saying, well, okay, I'm coaching them on sailing. I don't know much about boats for people with disabilities, but it's common sense. And it made sense to me what I needed to do to make it possible for them to sail and be more competitive. So then I started working on the boats, and I started making changes to make the boats more safer, easier to use, more adaptations.
Like what kind of changes did you see were necessary to make?
Even right from the design of the mast, changing the mast and the boom to a mast that would have more flex so that you could go out in higher winds. Because I was looking at it and saying, well, they're not going out in very heavy wind. Why is that? Well, the boats can't take it. Why is it that the boats can't take it? Let's start taking a look at that. So changing the mast, changing the spreader rake, changing the boom made a big difference in being able to go out into heavier winds, where now the limitation went from 10 knots to 18 knots. So that was a pretty dramatic change.
Right.
Changes to the sails and the cuts of the sail and the material, changes to the line. Changes to the line to use for the main sheet and the jib. We use something which is called Maffioli. Swift and Maffioli is a line that comes from Italy. It's very expensive. It's very gentle on the hands. So people that have soft skin on their hands can sheet without even noticing it in comparison to somebody on another type of boat. It initially started off with doing modifications for people that had different needs, but I rolled it out for everybody because it made sense to me to make it easier for people to sail across the board. So people that don't have strong hand strength and they want to be able to control the sails themselves, they can control the sails by pushing a button which will enable them to bring the sails in or let the sails out. and the sails control your speed. That is the power that you're getting from Mother Nature to make the boat move. So being able to move the sails and constantly adjust it without the stress of whether my hand can do it or not is a big thing. The further adaptations that we're doing is doing the same setup with the joysticks. We have a prototype right now which has a joystick setup. And then our third adaptation is for elbow control, so that with pushing down on a pressure point, be able to do the same thing, sheet the sails in, sheet the sails out.
And then there are some external adaptations like the Hoyer lifts. You have 2 of those.
Yeah, so we use a Davit and Voyager transfer lift system. So we actually use a battery-powered system that is used in hospitals, and it has up and down buttons. It also has a remote if we want to use the remote, so the sailor could do the transfer themselves if they wanted to.
And you also have different cushions.
We do.
You could suit everybody's needs.
You got it. And we have different types of seats. So we have Cape seats, and we've got 3 different types. And we're working on a 4th different type now, too.
Another interesting adaptation is, if you could talk about it a little bit, the life jackets.
Yes. So we really look at every aspect of the whole experience. And one of the things that I'd seen over the years right across the country, actually in different parts of the world for that matter, because I've been to clubs in different parts of the world, is ratty life jackets. And I just didn't want to have ratty life jackets at all. I wanted to have new life jackets, branded life jackets, and I wanted them to be comfortable. And that was Salus. It was and Salus has quite a long product line. So I went through every single one of the products to find the one that I liked the most. And then I met with the Salus team, and I discussed with them how I wanted to have increased flotation in the front, in the chest part, so that if somebody is not able to tread water, they can't use their legs or they can't move their hands very much, that they will be stable in the water, where they will float if they're in the water. There was a lot of negotiations that went on with the yacht club as to where we were going to put the docks, how we were going to position the docks, the design. In 2023, we changed the platform to be what you see here, which is a lengthwise dock, which is mounted to the main dock. Here, we're attached, we're solid, you don't have to think about it. You just wheel on, and the success was when I was able to stand over there and watch people approach the dock for the first time, and I could see that they didn't even think about it.
Right.
They just came straight on and started talking to people and having a great time. We had 20 some odd sailors in that first year, which grew to 30 some odd the next year, and this year we are now at 70 sailors. The goal would be to have clubs throughout the country. So not just in this yacht club, but say in the eastern part of Toronto, perhaps Whitby, Cobourg, so that people don't have to travel very far to sail. And it also opens the eyes of people to see people with disabilities doing the same sport that they're doing. It makes it a more cohesive world. The warmth that we've received from the members has been fantastic. The feeling for the person with disabilities getting in the sailboat, I think initially there's a little bit of nervousness. When they experience the process and feel that it is so seamless, that stress disappears, and then you usually see smiles, the joy. And then when people come back from their sail, the big smiles are a beautiful thing to see. The nice thing about the sport of sailing is it's being close to nature, it's quiet, it's peaceful, and Mother Nature really is a healer. Water is a healer. We come from within water, so why not enjoy an activity which is close to nature? Come, have fun, and see what it's all about.
I was 18 when I had a motorcycle accident, and I crashed about 240 kilometers an hour at a race bike. And one night I was misbehaving, which was normal at 18, and I crashed and broke my whole left side and was paralyzed right down the middle. I stayed in a hospital for 3.5 years because I was in a coma. And through that, in that period, I went to school. I got my grade 12 actually in the hospital. At the end of the 3.5 years, they labeled me unemployable and said, here's your pension for $450 a month for life. And good luck. But I didn't give up. 10 years later, I got working full time. And for almost 30 years, I sold cars just up to approximately 3 years ago. I was in all the sports as a boy, racing and skiing, from football, city boxing, track and field. After 3 years, I said, I want to try the disabled sports. And it was a wonderful experience. They were the same as you and me. They were just disabled. So we did the same thing. Some of the people were in wheelchairs. Some people had one leg, one arm. It didn't matter. They were great examples to me because they just did everything that I did in their own way. I first started in swimming, and then I switched from swimming to cycling. I won many medals, but as far as the Paralympics, I got 2 silvers in '84 for the 1,500 meter and 5,000 meter, and then I did the 60 kilometer in Korea. Korea got the gold, which was wonderful. Movement will keep you strong, right? To be honest with you, I'm in my bed. My legs have been so busted up, and I have arthritis. The leg was tore off, basically put back on at the foot and the knee. And so, along with being paralyzed, all the joints are affected for me. So I warm up in the bed between an hour and a half, 2 hours before I even leave my bed every morning. Yeah, I do a couple hundred crunches, but the main thing I'm doing is moving the legs. And I do the stomach, the crunches, because it helps my back. Because I hurt my back quite badly from the different falls I had over my life, from the original motorcycle accident to the falling down the stairs. It impaired my back. So the bad stuff is to get my back moving and my legs moving. But the movement will get the muscles to reconnect with your mind. Recreation is my joy. I love to exert energy, swimming in the pool. I can't swim yet, but walking in the water in the pool, it gives me, I'm producing energy. I'm focusing on my body and getting my balance, working on my balance. I've always just enjoyed participating in all sports. It's like a competition, achieving something. I have a gym inside in the room behind us. I have a gym. I use all my sports equipment. It gets me feel better when I'm using it. I feel like I'm doing something. My muscles feel better. My spirit is better. But the velochair, my wheelchair bicycle, is bringing me new joy that I haven't had for a long time. And it's given me the feeling that I was when I was a cyclist. So I can't do everything I once did, and I'm doing it slower, but I'm participating in life. It's allowing me to do what I once did by wheeling around. That's what I did with my bike. That's what the bike did for me, because I couldn't walk good. I walked with a strong limp. Now I'm bicycle with my velo chair, and I'm going all around. I go up and down in the park, right? And I'm saying hi to everybody. How are you doing today? It's my spirit is so I'm happy. When you join sport, you're interacting with people. You're talking to people. How are you, Bob? How are you, Mary? How are you, John? Whatever. And as far as greeting people, my PSW, she counts how many people sometimes we talk to. One day I said hello to 20 people, right? So I'm the official, unofficial greeter. If you see me, I was good morning, how are you, right? Because my goal is to encourage people. I can do that, right? God's given me that gift that I can. I was a greeter at my job selling car. You have to learn to say hello, right? You don't say hello, you don't get a customer, right? So now my gift is to, morning, nice to see you today. Truth is, I was angry, sad, many times for a long time. But I start my day by praying. I ask the Lord for strength every morning. I listen to a sermon, and it's a message on how to live your life and how you should try to cope with life. So that when I start doing my exercise, and I exercise machines here, that I can face life and still be happy and have something to go for. I'm focusing on getting stronger, and I'm walking outside in my PSW. I use a half crutch in my one arm, and we try to walk out and go around the park. And she holds me to keep me steady, and it's the hardest time of my day, but it's also the best time of day. And I say to everyone, I go, this is so hard to walk. But I said, it's my mountain, and I have to climb that mountain every day. And I will do that to the day I die. That's who I am.
Holy.
I started Rise Above because after my accident, climbing was my therapy, both physical and mental. I joined the Canadian paraclimbing team and had the privilege of going down to a World Cup in Salt Lake City. And that was my first time really experiencing the disabled community, like on a large scale. And I wanted to have something like that in London, where I'm from. But nothing like that existed. And so I decided, you got to make it if you want it.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about your injury, if that's okay? You said you experienced an injury?
Yeah. 3 years ago, I was doing aerial circus in my home, and I missed a move and I fell. I dislocated my C6 and 7, which are now fused together, and was in a chair for a couple of months and then gradually relearned to walk.
So climbing is something you did before your injury and after your injury.
Yeah.
I've been injured for over 2 decades, and during the beginning of my injury, I didn't like to do the things that I used to do because I'd seen the before me and the after me. Mm-hmm. What's it been like with something so challenging like climbing?
It has been difficult at times, both with the comparing your before self and your after self. It's something I still struggle with to this day, but you do learn ways of adapting to your new body and applying different sorts of movement to get around the obstacles, I guess.
So it's been positive.
Yes. Yeah, it's taken time, but it's positive.
So tell me a little more about the Rise Above Adaptive Climbing and the type of climbers that you help and what kind of equipment that you guys have.
It doesn't matter what your disability is, you're welcome to come out to Rise Above. We have had people who are visually impaired, we've had amputees, people on the autism spectrum, everybody.
And what does it entail to come here and try to climb?
So when you show up and climb with us, we get you in your equipment. We've got volunteers here to help you to whatever degree you need. And some people don't need a lot of assistance. They're able to get their own gear on We get them roped up and they're ready to climb. Some people actually need volunteers to help them maybe move some arms and legs that aren't as cooperative to help them get up to the top, but close to the top.
That's great that you adapt to different types of abilities. What kind of challenges have you experienced? One thing I find interesting about adaptive climbing is that I've never tried it myself, and it's been many years, mainly because I didn't know I could do it. So what kind of obstacles do you face with introducing people to the sport?
I think that would actually be the main obstacle, is a lot of people making the assumption that because they may not have mobility in their lower limbs, for example, like I'm not going to be able to do it, not realizing that they definitely can. The reception overall has been fantastic. And at this point in time, I almost don't even need to do any advertising for it anymore because word has just spread.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah.
And you guys climb exclusively here out of the Junction Climbing Center in London?
Not always. We've been to a gym in Stratford, Ontario a few times, and we're actually going to one in Guelph next month.
Nice. So what's it been like getting back into it? Like, how far do you want to take this? Are you a competitive hopeful?
I do like competing. I really do. I recognize that I started climbing late in life, and compared to some of the competitors now, I'm a little on the older side. I don't know if I would ever be a Paralympic hopeful, but I would still compete for as long as I think as my body is willing to let me compete and train.
Right on, fair enough. So what's it like climbing nowadays? Do you have any challenges?
My main challenge is that my left leg is very uncooperative and doesn't like to move a lot. So I have to either overcome that by finding, I will call it pogoing, by hopping up with my right foot sometimes exclusively. And sometimes I have to pick up my uncooperative left leg and just put it where I need it to go.
Is all the adaptive equipment things that you found like off the shelf, or have you developed anything on your own?
Some things are sort of off the shelf in the sense that like climbing ropes or climbing ropes, and some harnesses have different applications. Like, for example, full body harnesses can be used for adaptive climbers, but they can also be used for women who are pregnant as well too.
Right. How often do you guys meet here?
Once a month.
Once a month?
I would love to do it more often, but it doesn't always work for my schedule.
All right. So I've been talking a lot recently with people about language, and I'm wondering, what is the correct term? Is it adaptive climber, paraclimber? What do you like?
Both can be used. I find the consensus seems to be amongst the community, and this is very informal, that paraclimber or paraclimbing refers to the competitive aspect, and adaptive climbing is for everybody.
Right. Is there any subsidies for people, or right now, like how do people, get involved?
For the competitive aspect?
No, for part of the gym.
So what we try to do to make it financially accessible to people is we do have a sliding scale pay system. Suggested fee is $20. That helps Rise Above pay for the gym rental fee. But if someone can't do that, then they can't do that, and that's fine.
So I find the adaptations interesting because I want to try it with you, as you know. And you said I can be in a sitting position. Like, what kind of different positions can you be in when climbing?
So I guess 3. I'll say 3. So I guess more typically, people who do have leg function are climbing, I guess, in an upright position, 4 points of contact on the wall, hands and feet. Some people do what we call campus climbing, which is they're climbing with just their hands, which means they're also in an upright but hanging position. And then we actually have a brand new piece of equipment, a new harness that we'll be using actually with you, which is the seated harness. So you'll be able to stay in the seated position when you climb.
Right. And so how does it work? You said something about a 1 to 3 weight system. How can you explain that?
The pulleys.
Yeah.
I'm not a great math person, but the best I can describe it is we have a rope that goes through pulleys that reduces the amount of force that you need to pull with. So if it's a 3-to-1 pulley, it reduces the amount of force that you would need to pull with by approximately 66%.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited to try it. And so if there's someone out there like me who has a disability, who wants to get into a new sport, what kind of advice would you give to get started?
Just come out. If you're able to get into some stretching, do some yoga, just to make sure that, everyone, especially if you're a chair user, needs good arm muscles, make sure we want to preserve those, make sure they stay nice and loose before you come on out. But truly, you don't need any experience to come out and do this. You can just come. We'll find a way.
was great. It was a lot easier than I expected. I used a lot of my grip, so I need to work on my grip, I guess. But it was interesting to go up so high so quickly.
Thank you for watching this episode of Underestimated, presented by Oatly Vigmond Personal Injury Lawyers and brought to you by Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. We hope these features today have inspired you at home to try something new and have an adventure, wherever that may be and whatever that means for you. Thank you to our guests for sharing their experience and expertise. I'm Tori Bowman, and we'll see you next time.